Oh, here we are, week 18 via Zoom call. It's cold, it's snowy, and we're playing meaningless football in January. Looks like things are back to normal here in Cleveland, Ohio.
Definitely is.
After a two-week hiatus, Mike, how does it feel to be back on the air?
Feeling good, feeling healthy for the first time in 2 weeks.
That's good.
Yeah.
Always good to, that COVID, man. Not only did it ruin the Browns season, it messed with the media lot report, and we're gonna have to fight it against COVID wherever.
Oh yeah.
No matter
I'll say,
how,
man,
I will find
the COVID choke slammed me through a table, man. But
dear God.
But it started. I'm telling you, man, it started climbing up the ladder to get the briefcase, but I knocked that ladder over, man. Fell right over. So we're on equal playing fields right now. So we're back to it.
Sheldon Benjamin through a ladder.
Yeah, yes, sir.
All right. Well, yes, it's not a lot of meaning going into this week. It's the battle of the backup quarterbacks. You got Case Keenum and Brandon Allen. Baker Mayfield has been shut down for the last game to go get shoulder surgery because there's not really much point for him to play in this game. He probably didn't have much of a point to play in the last game either.
Or the entire, second half of the season.
Yeah, but they were still fighting for the playoffs. But at a certain risk of making that injury worse. And I'll admit that you were right, that they probably should have shut him down. He was very limited, and you go look back from last year, even in the beginning of the season, with that shoulder injury, it really limited of how he threw the ball. There's a huge difference when they teach you how to throw the ball in any sport or any level of a sport. They teach you to use your opposite arm to balance to throw the ball and throw the ball accurately and with more zip on it. And the way it was looking, that he was throwing and his opposite shoulder was open. So when you do that, it takes a lot of accuracy and zip off the ball. And, that's Baker's bread and butter, is he likes to zing it in there. Well, it wasn't really there this year. And after that injury, you can go look back at that first game against Kansas City, or even in the first couple plays of the Houston game where Baker looked pretty good. And, we had our hopes up that this was going to be a pretty good season. But it really seemed like that injury really played a factor in his performance throughout the season. But I also feel like he was limited by the game planning throughout the whole entire season. And this is the same conversation that we've had each week, and it's just simple things. Putting him in the right position to make a play. I got a couple examples here. Christmas Day, go back to the Green Bay game, and you're in field goal position, and you get caught in a 3rd and 19 with a holding penalty, which those things are going to happen. But you run a very simple 4 verticals play on 3rd and 19 where you could have just put the ball on the ground and just settle for the 3 points. Well, you look at that, and it's you probably end up winning the game because of that 3 points. But then go ahead, Baker has to make a tough throw. Granted, it was not very accurate, where that shoulder probably played a factor in throwing that pick, because look at the pass, he usually makes that throw. But also in that Green Bay game, how many times did they go away from the run? That they were getting 10 yards a pop against the Packers, and Nick Chubb was think he was in 100 yards for that game, I believe. And take the ball out of his hands late in the fourth quarter. You had a minute 30 left. You were at the 50-yard line with 3 timeouts. All you needed was a field goal. Granted, you had a first-time kicker out there, but you just got to do the right thing to make it easier for the rest of your team. And it just seemed like the coaching staff didn't really do that. Doing simple things like not going away from the run, be a little more patient. I think we can count on 2 hands how many times that's happened this year, win or lose, that they've given up on the run very early in the game. And that takes away a lot of your play action. And, your basis, your identity of this team, they went away from it this year. And maybe
because think about last year. We had Nick Chubb, 1,000-yard rusher, and Kareem Hunt was approaching that 1,000 yards. He had like 800 or something yards. I know that Kareem was out most this year, which is an unfortunate loss for us. But even Chubb has 98 less touches than Jonathan Taylor, and with injuries, you would think that, like, hey, maybe let's get this guy on par, even though he's the 3rd leading rusher in the entire NFL. He still gets so much less touches than everyone else. And I think if you just balance that out, he's definitely number 1 in my opinion. So just give the ball to Nick Chubb and let him do his work. We have the offensive line that is one of the best in the league, despite having 9 sacks yesterday, or not yesterday, this last game. And I think that does a lot to do with just having James Hudson up against TJ Watt pretty much the entire game. That's why he had a monster game and we couldn't get nothing done. They have the offensive line locked up for a few more years now with all those extensions. They're ready to go, man. Nick Chubb, like he was non-existent in that 3rd quarter. They just didn't play him. Baker had 38 passing attempts against one of the league's worst run defense. Nick Chubb barely had the ball in his hands, and I really don't know what to say about that. It's very hard to understand.
Right.
I'm not saying I'm the best at football, but I definitely have 2 eyes and common sense. So I really don't know what happened. It's something that's definitely with the play calling that we've seen a lot. And I understand Kevin Stefanski's a young coach. I don't want to give him a complete pass on this year, but I definitely want to break it down. I think he is new to this, and when you see a lot of injuries pile up and players out, and your quarterback, which is the staple of your offense, is playing at like 30% of what he is due to injury and maybe a regression. I think Kevin didn't know where to go, because I think he was really backed into a corner of his game plan that he built up. And I think once things start to fall apart, you're like, okay, hey, I don't have Baker 100%, like you're not even close to it. And I don't have Kareem Hunt, and Odell's giving us problems, and injuries. Donovan Peoples-Jones was out most this year as well. If you think about it, how many games he missed? He missed like a handful of games. Jarvis has continuously has injuries since he's been here, and that leaves that receiving core depleted. That leaves the running back room depleted, and our quarterback just can't really throw an accurate ball or run the ball in general. And then on top of our offensive line with COVID issues, and Jack Conklin being out pretty much the whole second half of the season, a lot can go wrong, and a lot did go wrong. And I think it's a lot to blame, but it's also like kind of an understandable thing. I think a lot of people are just having calling for Stefanski's job and to trade Baker and everything. And I mean, we'll see what happens, but I really think people it's the overreaction that's going on around the internet right now, and I think the fuel to the fire is really the national media, kind of guys that are like, oh, get rid of them, and then it's just Shannon Sharp and Skip Bayless yelling at each other for an hour.
Yeah.
It's very much like that. So we'll see what happens. But I mean, my main thing is I know you see a lot of a lot going on with Baker on social, talking just firing back at people, and it just feels like Baker from a few years ago. I'm just sick of the drama, and it just seems like it's like a middle school kid. He's acting like such a young, undeveloped person, and it's so frustrating. That's the part that really annoys me. I think if I'm looking at the scenario of Andrew Berry's a really smart person, and I mean, he'd be dumb not to, look around for a quarterback. If you can get Deshaun Watson, you get Deshaun Watson. If you can get Aaron Rodgers, Russell Wilson, you get those guys. No matter how good your quarterback is, it's an upgrade. Now, if you're going to look for someone just to kind of be an in-between quarterback before you can find someone, I'm going to stick with Baker at this point. What's the point of looking around and, getting Fitzmagic? It's just not, Mariota. I don't know. It's just, I feel like I'd rather have the upside of Baker Mayfield.
Hey, you gotta take your chances here. At that point, it's rather, you're gonna pay him the same amount of money, so there's nothing to lose at that point. The only go upright. I mean, the only thing you can do right now is upgrade, and you only have have a minimum of options. Like there's Deshaun Watson, there's Russell Wilson, Aaron Rodgers possibly, or if you really want to throw his name in there, even Kirk Cousins. You can consider those all upgrades at this point. But I don't see the point of spending a pick on a rookie quarterback and waiting another 2 to 3 years just to find out he's not the guy.
Now, I could see that scenario if, Baker plays his fifth-year option and you're like, man, I really don't know. I'm still throwing, darts in the dark with Baker if he does bad next year. And then that's another whole scenario where you can see like a Trey Lance and Jimmy Garoppolo, but the issue is that you don't got Baker for another year after that. You would need to extend him no matter what.
Right. And
so that's the pickle we're in.
I think we've talked about this before. The whole spending a first round pick on a quarterback and keeping Baker on his option. When you use a first round pick on a quarterback, definitely make a statement that, hey, we're most likely going to replace our quarterback right now. And knowing Baker Mayfield, he would immediately ask for a trade because he's a gamer and you got to respect him for what he is. He never backs down. But this would be a personal insult to him if they were to go forward in doing that. That being said, it just comes down to it's either going to be Baker Mayfield or they're going to make an upgrade, and I don't think there's any other options here going forward at quarterback. And that's not even the biggest red flag for this team. It all comes down to this coaching staff. Baker has a right to be very upset with what's going on. The bad positions he's been put in. He's got the media coming out saying that he was calling for a trade, and apparently he has never called for that. But this is it could be a bad source, or Baker's just blowing smoke just to have more leverage going forward. But then he comes out with a statement yesterday saying that all he's wanted to do was win one for the city of Cleveland. He wants to be here for his whole entire career. And I don't know about you. There's not many people that want to come to Cleveland and play. And when someone says that, you definitely want to root for them, no matter how bad or good they do. Um, and yeah, I have been upset with how he plays, but I'm not going to give up on him yet, because I would say it's very hard to evaluate this season given all the obstacles they've had, and his personal obstacles. Um, so, I think you got to write it out with Baker, but for the remainder of the team, um, you know, we'll get to the coaching staff, but looking up and down the roster, I think they need to improve at the pass catching position, receiver and tight end. Um, Jarvis is going into, I think, his final season. That's worth 15 million. And I mean, granted, I think we all have, a deep love for Jarvis Landry here, but paying 15 million a year for a receiver that's not really producing at worth that contract. The numbers are not showing. He could really be the first man out as a salary cap um,
The
cut.
casualty.
Yeah,
I can see it too, just because I mean, if you think, we pay like Rashard Higgins $1.3 million. I mean, although I mean he is very very underwhelming this year, we can get a whole new receiving core for Jarvis' salary. That's big. I mean, we can get
yeah,
two really good receivers and say bring back Daryl Hodge and get someone in the draft, and that's a whole new receiving core on top of keeping Peoples-Jones.
yeah.
That's something to look at, because we think we're going to have Schwartz or we're going to have Peoples-Jones back next year, no matter what. Pretty much, I would say.
Yeah, and Peoples Jones definitely been a bright spot this season where he wasn't getting many reps to start off the season, but as soon as Odell, you know, getting cut, Peoples Jones took on a big time role.
Like what
And
we talked about, he came into this year as a fourth, fifth receiver and finished it as a number one. So that's a lot to ask from a guy that's
yeah,
on a second year.
and I think he will really turn it up next year. No matter who they bring in, um, you know, you got a couple guys in this year's draft. You're going to be looking at like a top 12 pick. It
I can see
That's great,
Peoples Jones being similar to like a T Higgins role,
right?
as we say we get like a Wilson, from Ohio State, and T Higgins is very much how that is with Jamar Chase. I can really see that kind of being where we go from there, and who the Tyler Boyd role is, I really don't know, but I mean that's another conversation.
Right. There's a couple guys in the draft like Garrett Wilson or Chris Olave. Um, you got Dotson out of Penn State. You got Drake London out of USC, who's a 6'5" former basketball player that runs perfect routes. You know, you got a lot of options, and I'm pretty sure they will go receiver in the first round.
I,
Look,
I would almost bet money on it at this point.
yeah, yeah, I'd say that's the betting favorite right now is they go
Yeah.
receiver first round.
Now another big issue that we have is the tight end room, because you got to pay Njoku, and Austin Hooper is just not doing it for us. He just isn't doing it. He's not producing. And same thing kind of with Jarvis, is that with Hooper, you're paying him so much money. He's one of the highest paid tight ends in the entire NFL. You can pick up a veteran receiver and pay Njoku and still make money back with cutting Austin Hooper or trading Austin Hooper. Um, he's just costing too much money that it's just not being utilized correctly. If you start looking at a salary cap perspective, is that you have to either keep Njoku or Hooper, and Njoku's going to cost a hell of a lot less, and you're probably going to get more production, and you can get another guy to fill that spot. So I would like to see Njoku be a number one, and I think you mentioned is bring in like Jared Cook or a veteran, or maybe even kind of a speed guy, kind of even like a smaller tight end. Uh, think about Harrison Bryant, which we didn't see utilized at all this year, and that dude is massive. You know, that dude's like 6'7". He's huge, man. Like, you got that covered. And Joku's a big dude, and Austin Hooper is just a guy that, he blocks well, but man, you're paying him so much money to drop balls.
Yeah. You know, there's so many times this year that they could have been in a better position to win a football game, and you're relying on a man that you pay a nice loft of your money,
Yeah,
and he's out there and dropped passes at the wrong time.
but
Um, yeah,
consistently drop passes.
and last year and this year.
Yeah,
Um,
both years he was here, it's been a complete and utter disappointing stint for Austin Hooper here. And I was a big fan of Austin Hooper in Atlanta. I was really excited when he came here, and it's just been awful.
it looks like my body wants to go to the moon right now. It's been
I
like
know.
this,
They're only half your body.
like maybe.
But for the offensive side, that's pretty much what I got about the offensive side. We still got Kareem locked up for this upcoming year, and we still have obviously we just gave Nick Chubb an extension. Defensive side is a different story. We're running off of a lot of 1-year deals: Jadeveon Clowney, Malik McDowell, Malik Jackson, Anthony Walker. A lot of these guys, either we need to re-sign or fill it up. You're just a floating head. I love it. But Anthony Walker, I can almost guarantee won't be back. Mac Wilson, I'm guessing, is not going to be back. Malik Jackson, I doubt he'll be back. I think Jadeveon Clowney and McDowell are one of the only few that will be back. And I could see, I think Greedy has one more year left. I could see possibly him being involved in a trade. But we're going to have to fill a lot of this defense again. A lot of the guys weren't working. We had Billings gone. He was awful. So, and we were really banking on him. They were like, oh, Sheldon Richardson, Larry Ogunjobi. Oh yeah, whatever. We got Billings and we got Malik Jackson. We should be good. No, awful. It was a very bad experiment and gamble on our end on that front. And Sheldon Richardson had a good year with Minnesota. So we have to fill a lot of those defensive line spots, linebacker spots.
Right.
I think JOK is obviously going to make a way bigger splash this upcoming year. He's going to take on a huge role. But other than that, we have a lot of guys that will be around. And Denzel probably going to get a big extension because instead, so we look at that Jarvis and Hooper salaries. You can basically pay Denzel Ward and Njoku and pick up a few more guys next year just for those, not having those guys on your team. So we'll see what happens with that. But there's a lot of room because we have a really talented team. We really do. It's one of the most talented teams in the entire NFL, in my opinion.
Right. You also have Ronnie Harrison coming up on a contract too.
Yeah. He's one that I'm real concerned about. I don't know if he'll be back either.
Yeah.
Because I think with John Johnson locked up, Delpit has really stepped up and I think living up to expectations. I think Richard LeCount might be playing a little bit big of a role next year as that third guy. We'll see what happens though.
Production out of MJ Stewart later on in the season.
Yeah, absolutely, big time.
That's
I'd rather see him back.
Right. That's another guy that's definitely produced. You still got Troy Hill for another season. You got a lot of guys locked up for the next couple of years, like you said. Ideally, you're going to extend Denzel Ward. You got Troy Hill, like I just pointed out. Greg Newsome, you have 4 years. John Johnson.
And honestly, I would actually weirdly prefer, because I like Greedy, but Greedy's got burnt so many times this year when he's needed to step up when Greg was out. it was awful. There's so many times that Raiders game was abysmal. I would almost rather see AJ Green as that other guy instead of Greedy, because although Greedy is good, I mean he's still having shoulder issues.
But
He went out
know
this
what?
last game.
You know what? I want to keep Greedy on this roster, mostly because his size. And this season, he's been inconsistent, but he's shown signs of being very good.
Very
Um,
true. Yeah, earlier on in the season, he did play really well.
he's a very physical corner. Um, he's made some plays this year. He's had, I believe it was 2 picks. And they came at the right time each time. Both of them late in the fourth quarter to close out a game. Oh, one was potentially to close out a game.
Well, you'd hope it closed out the game. It did turn out that well.
Yeah, but you can't put that on him for that.
Yeah.
But Greedy, I want him to stick around unless you can make a move and get some capital out of it. Or
yeah, and that's what I think will happen is that he'll be here next year unless he is involved in a trade.
Yeah, he's not getting paid much money to make a move on him just yet. I'm sure they want to see him develop, because you could really say this was about his rookie season because he hasn't played a full season yet.
Yeah.
So that it's not that he's been horrible. It's just he can't stay on the field, and he has been burnt at times. But what corner hasn't been burnt?
Yeah, even Denzel got that work with Devontae
Yeah,
Adams.
yeah, exactly. And I'm very content with how our secondary looks. You can. I think. Oh my goodness, what's his name? DC. I just lost it.
Defensive coordinator, you talking?
Yeah,
Joe Woods?
Joe Woods. God damn. I'm sorry. My mind just slipped. I've talked about this team for the whole entire week, and my mind is just. I blew my load through the whole week. Let's just say that. But I think Joe Woods definitely figured out what this team's good at, especially the secondary. You notice they dropped. They were running a lot down to start off the season, and now they're running a lot more man, which is, you look at your personnel, and these are all guys that are very good in man coverage. So they're very content with that. But like as we were talking about the linebacking core, there's 3 guys. I'm sure they're going to be the future of that core there. And that's JOK for sure, just because you can do a lot with him, and he's been a steal. Um, if you didn't have to put him up against a Micah Parsons, he might have won Defensive Rookie of the Year. And so they didn't play him to start this season. He started making noise towards the middle of the season. And then you just got Jacob Phillips back later on in the season. And if you go back and look at last year, he was a real stud for you. And I think these are 3 guys. Oh, and finally, Taki. You know, he flatlined this year. He was
Yeah.
about the same as he was last year, but it's not necessarily a bad thing. They were just really filling out the role for him, and I think he's got a lot of potential going forward. I like Taki. He's good in the run, and he's good off the blitz. So, looking at those guys, I like to stick with them. And for the defensive line, I think you'd have to bring back Malik Medal. It's a guy that you didn't think would even make the roster to start off the season. The guy that hasn't played football in about 3 years, and he's completely turned his life around. And he's been very productive for this team. Um, I prefer him in like a second defensive tackle role where he doesn't have to be high. And
It's
that was,
kind of similar to Tack.
yeah,
I would like to see Tack back as well. I mean, I think he really stepped up.
Tech is back in another year. Um, the big question is Jadeveon Clowney. Um,
Yeah, because
did
he definitely boosted himself up. If anyone else wants to give another look at him, they definitely can.
I believe he had 7 sacks on the season.
Okay, yeah, I'm not entirely sure. I mean, I just know he did crazy well against the run. So I would love to have him back. Just I think it's gonna honestly really be up to him. I think he's gonna get another few looks.
Let's see. We'll take a look here. Yep, 7 sacks on the season and a forced fumble. All right. But, that's considering what his production's been in the last couple of years. This guy has taken a step up and really brought his career back to life here in Cleveland. Um,
It'd be unfortunate for him to leave, but
Myles Garrett is openly recruiting him to resign, and he even came out and said himself that he would love to stay here and work something out. But of course, you'll see. And he's even calling out guys around the league to say, "Hey, Cleveland's the spot. Come here and play." It's not just what there is to do in the city, but it's the people in it and the people on the team. And you got to love that, and hopefully that's a good sign in resigning him. I really think that would be a great idea to bring back that trio of Clowney, Garrett, and Tech McKinley, because when they were healthy together, they were led the league in pressures per game, and they were very successful pressuring the quarterback, having one of the highest pressure percentages throughout the season. I think they're finishing third behind Pittsburgh and I think it's LA. I'm not really sure. A little rusty on my stats right now.
you're good. So am I.
Yeah, but you know, I think Malik Jackson, you let him walk unless you can get him on a cheap deal. But
Yeah,
I think defensive tackle and another edge rusher is something to look at in the draft, especially in the linebacking core. You want to get more deep on your roster. That's where we're at in our rebuild or our progress as a team. Is we're looking to add more depth, more guys we can put on the field that can be productive, even if there's injuries that could shake up the whole season. Um, just to have that fourth edge rusher is a big deal. Allowing Myles Garrett and Jadeveon Clowney get a break um, you know, is a big deal. Or having a defensive tackle that can rush the passer and stop the run is a big deal, because I think the weakness of that front four is in the middle, and you saw teams expose that on the ground this year.
definitely. When you can't just they can't block holes for a running back. They're just being opened up, and it was kind of a big issue in my opinion with this team. But yeah, I mean, we're going to talk a lot more about the team going forward and stuff like that. But for this upcoming week, I think it's going to be a hard one to predict. I really don't know what's going to go on. I mean, to back up QBs, who's going to play, who's not going to play. It's some people are still up in the air. But all said and done, congratulations to the Bengals. Took the division somewhere that I thought we would be.
I'd rather it be them than the stupid ass Ratbirds or that team in Pittsburgh.
Yeah,
You know,
both of them. But yeah, I mean, honestly, the Bengals do have a really nice team, and I really do like how they've rebuilt. But unfortunately, so we're out of playoff talk. Yeah, and the classic Brown saying, "There's always next year."
we're back at it.
Yes, sir, we're back. So we'll see what happens. But so I'm not going to give a prediction this week.
I'm gonna make one more final point here
Okay.
for this team going forward, and I know I wanted to round it back to the coaching staff. Um, like I said, I think Joe Woods has bought himself another year. He, I think, was the only one on the staff that made adjustments
Yeah,
throughout.
not
And
according to Miles, but I think he did.
yeah, um, you know, it was a big difference. It was almost night and day. Um, he hasn't really been a play caller his whole entire career. This is only his second year as a play caller. And you saw a lot of progression this year because in the beginning of the season, we were calling for his head. And
Yeah.
now,
Oh yeah, I was vocal about it.
you can be very content with what they had. Um, but looking on the offensive side of the ball, um, Stefanski definitely took a step back. He has not. This team has been very, very inconsistent on both sides of the ball. Um, Not very disciplined. That's a problem. You got guys lining up at the wrong time. Penalties here and there that you can say, what if we didn't do this? What if we did this right? Um, and you paid the price for it throughout the whole entire season. You had this division handed to you on a silver platter, and you could not capitalize. And you had it multiple times. The Green Bay game, the Raiders game, the New England game, couple months ago, and you had the opportunities, and you took it out of your own hands. So that's on Stefanski. I'll give him the pass because there's a thing called the sophomore slump. But at the very same time that he needs to improve on the play calling and mature. He needs to be a little more patient in the run game. Um, he needs to get this team disciplined again, and don't be afraid to put the play calling sheet down and let someone else do it. Um, that being said, we move over to AVP and Alex Van Pelt. Um, I'm not very impressed with him. I saw more um, of a passing offense this year than what we ran last year, which was ideal for this team. It almost seemed like they didn't know their personnel, like this was their first year. And, you look at all the great offensive minds in the league. And I like to use Andy Reid as an example. One of the greatest coaches of all time, one of the greatest play callers of all time. But you know what? He has his OC right by his side throughout the whole entire game, bouncing ideas and play calling off each other. And that's where it's a real head scratcher. Even Bill Belichick, when he's calling defensive plays, greatest coach of all time, greatest defensive play caller of all time. And you can look at him on the sideline. He's got his defensive coordinator right next to him. This is a problem. I really don't think Van Pelt's the guy. He hasn't had any experience as an offensive coordinator before the Browns, so he's at the same level as Stefanski. And Stefanski's only had a year more than him. So what I'd like to see them do is look in another direction for an offensive coordinator. And I would say a veteran, someone that's called plays before. Um, you have Schottenheimer's sons out there. Um, I'd give Gary Kubiak a call, or even his son over in Minnesota. There's a possibility Mike Zimmer might be on his way out in Minnesota. That's another guy to look at, even though he's defensive coordinator. Maybe you want to go away with Joe Woods, but they need to do something to improve this coaching staff and get this team back where it needs to be. But that finally being said, we can get to our predictions. I know you're like, oh, I don't even know what to say at this point.
I don't. I'm not gonna give a prediction. My only prediction I'm gonna give is that Bengals are gonna pull this one off and beat us. And I feel like it's, I don't know. I feel like we're just gonna give up how it was. You ever 2 years ago. You remember 2019 when the Bengals were absolutely awful and we still lost to them the last week? That's how I feel it's gonna be this week. Except they're good this year.
All right. Well, you have to bring up that pain, but you know, this game doesn't have much of a meaning, but we're still going to be watching it.
For sure. Oh yeah, I picked up my beer today for it.
Yeah, and you know, I like Case Keenum. This might be his last game in a Browns uniform unless they put him on a cheaper deal and bring him back. You know, Bengals are resting a lot of guys because they're locked in. So
Yeah.
no risk. Joe Burrow got shooken up a little bit last week.
Who do they have? They have the Colts in the first round, right?
As of right now, it could change. It could change. The Colts are not even locked into the playoffs right now. So
I know, right? Yeah. That's the thing, that the AFC is so up in the air where we still could have done something, but everyone's like, oh, well, once we get off the bye. And I was one of those people. Maybe we'll just roll, and it was the opposite. We fell straight on our face. But whatever.
But I think Nine's going to just have a lot of guys sitting out, and the Browns are still going to have most of their starters in. So
yeah,
let it fly.
That's our only hope, right?
You got nothing to lose in this game, so neither team really has nothing to lose. But I think the Browns have more of a reason to just go out there and get a win, just for the sake of the team. So I gotta go with the Browns in a very little scoring game here, low scoring, like a 13-7 game. Case Keenum rolls out, can't find anyone to throw it to, and dives into the end zone for the only touchdown of the game. That's the type of game I'm feeling, and I'm okay with that. You got Nick Chubb out there. Give him his 100 carries because you don't have nothing to lose. If you don't run the ball 50 times in this game, like I've said all year, then I don't know what the hell you're doing.
I would like to see D'Ernest do really well, because this might be D'Ernest's last game as a Brown as well, unfortunately.
All right. But to wrap things up, this is our final week of the Muni Lot Report. We will be back. We have a couple more segments that we're going to be starting here in the next couple weeks. Starting with around the league, where we just focus on the news going around the league, trade rumors, and just flat out news. Maybe we'll try to check in with other fan pages around the league. I think that's a goal of ours, to see what we can do there. And then we look at how teams need to improve. That being said, we have another segment in improving the Browns called Fixing the Browns. And yes, we are under construction again, so put your hard hats on for this.
For this content.
Yeah, this one's going to be fun.
Yeah, so we're going to be looking at free agents that are hitting the market. So we talked about in this video who's going to go, who do we think is going to go, and who to replace them, and there's better options to really build the Browns as a better team for next year. And I think that's going to be the goal for that one. And said around the league is going to be real awesome. We're going to cover the entire NFL, and really just said make some really cool content, and I'm really excited for it. So graphics packs and everything like that are being under construction as well right now.
Rip. We're gonna let this one rip. We're gonna have a lot of fun with this one.
Definitely, yeah. Last one,
and then we're gonna start a new little thing. It's gonna be a little more quick pace, and the Muni Lot Hot Minute, where it's just a quick wrap up of Browns news, rumors, trades, just to break some news, just to get stuff out there for you guys. We want to try to cover this as much as we can.
On top of the draft, we'll be covering again like we did last year. That's how we started the page, was covering the draft. So we'll be back again, full on coverage.
Yeah, but you know, we want to thank everybody that's watched our show, followed us on all of our social media pages. It's a great start. It was definitely a learning process for us. I feel like we improved throughout the season ourselves, and we're going to work on getting much better for our page, and we really want to get more Browns news out there for you guys. But that being said, I am Michael Lewis, the genius, the creator, the editor, whatever you want to call me. I got 2 dogs at home. Thanks for watching, guy. I like the rest.
I'm Nabil Habib, and I'm the looks. Thanks for watching.
Damn near.
All right, thanks, guys. Appreciate it.
Go Browns.